beyond the headlines with the people who make them. This is Explained. Now, here's Steve Fullhart.
10 years ago this week, Mike Fossum left Earth. Few humans have achieved it, and of those, Fossum is the first Aggie undergrad. His journey from McAllen, Texas, dreaming of being out of this world, took him through Texas A&M and into the Air Force, and then to NASA, working on shuttle missions since the third one ever. It took a while and a lot of persistence for the engineer to get into the astronaut program. But 3 times now, he has slipped the surly bonds of Earth to explore and advance mankind. I had 2 occasions to interview Colonel Fossum while he was orbiting the Earth. Once on Shuttle Discovery, another time on the International Space Station, which he commanded. Do you have any message for the folks here before we go?
Gig 'em, Aggies. Whoop, whoop.
Our first in-person chat came a few weeks ago in Mission Control in Houston. You, I guess, were in Minnesota last year at an event, and you spoke to MinPost and gave a quote that I'm pretty sure fits absolutely beautifully with your attitude. I'm a normal guy with an outrageous job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the way I feel. Because when I was a child watching the early days of the space program, I thought that astronauts were gods or something, and I found out that that's absolutely not true. That they are normal people. Some are more normal than others, with an outrageous job.
Right. But I think just simply by virtue of the job itself,
right,
that most people would say an astronaut is not a normal person.
Well, one could certainly argue that, and it'd be hard to prove them wrong. I mean, there's aspects of the job that just do not coincide with normal life, but there's other aspects that really do, or that correspond to the people that are in jobs that are maybe have a little more risk associated with them. Our first responders, you don't have that kind of job where they're going into situations where they don't know for sure what they're going to have to deal with. Our military members that are deployed in combat situations, things like that. So those are all things that are not that different from this. There's a calculated risk that goes along with it.
Maybe it's a different attitude, but not necessarily a different personality?
Not a completely different personality. But those kind of things are related.
So let's go back to the beginning. Born, I guess, in South Dakota, is that right?
That's right.
How long did you spend there?
Spent the first 4 years of my life in South Dakota. Then we moved to South Texas, down to Mission, Texas initially, and then to McAllen, where I really grew up in the Rio Grande Valley.
What took you there?
My dad worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and he got the opportunity to move down to South Texas. They thought it was just going to be for 3 years. It ended up being all of them. But
are you happy that you were there?
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as quickly as I could.
And an Eagle Scout as well, not just a Boy Scout.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm an Eagle Scout.
Was that something that you were determined as a kid to achieve?
Yes, absolutely. Because I loved the program and I stayed in the program, and so it became a natural thing. And I grew up, served on the summer camp staff and involved as a volunteer. Beyond my normal experience of earning the rank of Eagle, I wanted to give back to the program.
Did you ever get your Space Exploration Merit Badge?
I did not. I'm not even sure the Space Exploration Merit Badge existed back then, but
okay.
I've helped scores of boys earn it since then.
There's nothing retroactive that you could go back and get it, because I feel like that would be appropriate and almost necessary at this point.
I'll look into that.
You grew up, your childhood was right in the heart of man leaving Earth for the first time.
I was born 2 months after Sputnik became the first man-made object to orbit the Earth. And my dad, really, who grew up a farm boy, but he thought that this space program was important. And so, like most of the people in the country and really the world would get up in the middle of the night to watch critical events. But I remember laying on the banks of Falcon Lake in South Texas on a Boy Scout campout. I was 12 or 13 years old. The campfire was dying down. We were landing on the moon at that time. I mean, that was in the same time we were doing the Apollo missions. And I laid back looking up at the stars and felt like I was not just observing the pinpoints of light, but I was actually in them. And I said, well, technically we are. And then I remember that evening saying, I want to do that. I want to reach out there too.
So you actually do know the moment. You do know the moment when it happened for you. Because I think there are a lot of kids in this generation, and especially in your generation, that had the exact same thought.
Sure.
but there's a difference between having the thought and then pursuing the dream. What was that point for you?
I would say for me, that was just, we shared the same thought. You know, at that time, for me, it never completely went away, but I also didn't think it was possible. There was nothing in my background, you know, suggested that this kind of thing was possible. Or
Kids
that
from
I
McAllen didn't necessarily go to space.
could reach for some kind of audacious challenge like that. My father didn't go to college. He got an associate's degree through correspondence courses. So that was a pretty big reach for me. And I didn't really believe it. Some of my old childhood friends say that I did talk about it. I don't remember that. I remember when I wanted to do well in high school, so I'd have the chance to go to college, and it was the combination of an Aggie Scoutmaster and an Aggie high school science teacher that actually pushed me toward A&M, and the science teacher actually arranged for me to make my first visit to A&M. Being on the campus was magical. The first year is so vivid as I discovered new things, new experiences. Marching into Kyle Field for the first time was just gives me goosebumps today to think about it. One of the most profound moments of my freshman year was my first Aggie muster. We were gathered in G. Raleigh White, and I'd memorized what it was about, but I didn't really understand it until actually experiencing it myself. And
right.
That's just one of our most cherished traditions. And I often have the opportunity to speak at Aggie musters around the country, and that's a very special thing.
You have taken so many different A&M related items up into space over the years. We've seen that. But what of A&M do you take in your heart and your mind?
For me, it's duty, honor, country. That's a lifetime mission to live up to those kind of ideals. At the same time, you know, the Aggie Spirit, and you know, we have some fun with that, and the Aggie community understands that, where the importance of things like the Aggie War Hymn and the Spirit of Aggieland. And those were wake-up songs for me, you know, during my 2 space shuttle missions. And so that was, you know, that was just a special time to kind of carry that banner. When I was doing the long-duration mission on the space station 4.5 years ago, I did a live event with engineering students. And that was really a neat thing, because they were so excited about it. They were talking to, you know, a fellow Aggie in space, somebody that had slugged it out in the halls of Zachary and, you know, in the library and the labs, and managed to get through calculus.
But giving back to A&M means something to you.
Oh, you bet.
It's a concerted effort on your part to give back.
It's really important, and that's one of the things that's really special about A&M too, is the strong involvement from the former students.
Welcome back to Explained.
7 times you applied to be an astronaut. Was there going to be an 8th and a 9th and a 10th if you didn't get accepted that 7th?
Sure.
Just persistence?
Yeah, well, it's persistence, and I figured, why not? First time I applied, they ended up not having a selection because of an accident. But you know, after I interviewed 3 times in a row and wasn't selected, I thought, okay, that's 3 strikes, you know. But I kept, you know, moving on with my life, and I never stopped and waited. People say, how could you wait so long? I wasn't waiting. I was working. I found out I was going to fly on STS-121 in really the aftermath of the Columbia accident, and we were all, of course, in a first shock and disbelief, and then it was, let's figure out what happened. I was the lead capsule communicator, or Capcom, for the space station crew, the guys that were living on the space station at that time. So it was my job to kind of lead the team, the cadre that was their voice link from the ground. And so I was spending a lot of time in this building, but also spent time in Texas searching for the debris and trying to find that bit of debris that might have a clue to help us understand what happened.
So you've got responsibilities with the space station when Columbia happens.
Right.
You're out in East Texas and Louisiana looking for parts of the space shuttle. Presumably you knew the people who were on board that mission. At what points, if any, did you think, maybe this isn't the thing for me to do? Or did you ever think that?
No, I never thought that. I did think, I'm not sure if this is ever going to work. You know, everybody wants that first flight. And so you're worried that something's going to happen. No, you're worried for your friends, you're worried for lots of reasons, but one of them is, you know, I want my chance to fly.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Was it what you envisioned it would be when you were that child looking up?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and even better. For the most part, the Space Shuttle missions were great. That first mission was awesome. The spacewalks, and we can talk about that all day, were amazing. The chance to go back again 2 years later to be the lead spacewalker was a great experience, and we did some really great work on the station. Then living on the space station for 5.5 months, you know, that was a dream come true. And I remember actually a intermediate school a science project concept that some buddies and I worked on, where we kind of built a space station cabin in a buddy's backyard, and we had little sleep compartments in it. And we imagined ourselves in a space station for a night at a time.
And of course, the Aggies are all up in great arms and celebration today to have the first Aggie in space. So
I knew that the Aggie Nation was going nuts.
Beat the hell out of TU! Hey, what?
I don't believe it. Are you guys really in there?
That's affirmative, Mike. Thanks a lot, Mike, for what you're doing.
You know, there's Texas Aggies from the governor's mansion to the fields of Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm proud to carry the Aggie flag to yet another place. Johnson Space Center and all of the Aggies that worked here were just having a ball with this whole thing. I was just trying to keep it low key. It's sometimes hard for us too, for me too.
Colonel, I'm assuming you've peeked out a window and looked down on Texas a few times. When you look at Aggie Land from your vantage point, what goes through your mind?
To me, it looks like home. One of the main landmarks to find it is the Brazos River just outside of town. And, you know, looking at Texas and Aggie Land out there, and it just looks like home. Brings back a lot of memories.
What specifically do you think of when you're up there and you're seeing Aggie Land fly by?
Well, going across, across Texas, and seeing the world go by, seeing the states go by, you see the places, and it's actually, it can be hard to pick out specific places, because things as big as the Brazos River from 200 some miles away don't look so big. And but you see the places, you see the countryside, and I had not lived around, you know, like the live oaks and the hills that we have, you know, in the Bryan College Station area that are so pretty. I was trying to using a telephoto then to get pictures down below. That's challenging when you're moving 5 miles a second. Sure. And I tried so hard to get pictures of Kyle Field during a football game.
Right.
And doggone, either the orbit wasn't right, or there were clouds, or I just couldn't find it that day for some reason. I finally got some great pictures of the campus and the surrounding area, but not during a football game, and I really wanted to.
You go up to the space station, spend 167 days, if I'm correct, in space on that flight, and you receive the final space shuttle mission.
Yeah.
Bittersweet?
Yes, it was. It really was. It was awesome to be there for that last space shuttle mission. I remember the first one so well. I worked the third one.
I was going to say, you were here.
Sure.
You were one of the few people probably, as far as astronauts. Obviously, you weren't an astronaut the entire time, but you were there nearly one to the end.
Right. We call it the STS single digit days. So yeah, there's very few people that have been around that long. But to be there for the last mission was daunting. It was a lot of work getting ready for them, because they arrived a few weeks after I got to the space station, and a lot of our effort was really getting ready for that last mission. We had a lot of work to do when they were there.
They were bringing up a lot of stuff for you too.
They were bringing up a lot of stuff that we had to transfer, and Ron Guerin and I, my crewmate from STS-124.
An Aggie dad as well.
And an Aggie dad as well, that's right. We were doing another spacewalk. We did our 4th spacewalk together while Atlantis was there for the 135 mission, so that was a large part of us. It's really poignant as we prepared to say goodbye to them and close that hatch. And before we closed the hatch, we actually placed a flag, a U.S. flag, near the hatch that all the space shuttles had docked to. And that flag is there today, waiting for the first crew to launch from American soil to come up and bring that flag home. we didn't know when that might be. And it was actually a bit bittersweet, best way to describe it, as we watched Atlantis back away for the last time.
On Spacewalks, 7 of them, 4 with Ron.
Right.
What is that a describable experience?
This will be the 7th spacewalk of Mike Fossum's career.
In order to do spacewalks successfully, you almost cannot think about what you're doing because it's just too outrageous. The feeling of sliding out of the airlock for the first time and hanging on and looking at this space station that's just hanging there, seeing a space shuttle dangling off one end where it's docked, and then looking down and seeing the Earth go by at 5 miles a second.
The natural thought, I would think, would be, I'm going to fall.
Hang on. Yeah.
Forever.
There can be a fear of falling away. You've got to overcome that. And the way to do that, and I did it in all my spacewalks, is you've got to practice just a little bit, and you've got to loosen up the grip, because you want to put a death grip on the handrails. The first thing you do is double check your safety tether, because we are always tethered. And you want to make sure that that's down and it's locked and it's functioning properly. And if that's all good, you're more than likely okay. You still don't want to fall off, and it's a little hard to overcome the mental aspects of that. But you do that by releasing your grip until you've just got a feather touch on the handrails, and then let them go. And then if you don't impart, if you don't push off in some way, then you're just hanging there next to it with maybe a very slow drift, but you're not going anywhere in a hurry. You're going 17,500 miles an hour, but you're going in formation. And once you get that confidence, like, okay, if I just let go, I'm really not going to go plummeting to the Earth. It's okay. Light touch, and then you don't wear yourself out. Spacewalking doesn't use legs.
Mike Fossum continuing to hang on to the camera there and take some pictures. He is looking out toward the Russian segment of the International Space Station.
Clearly, these tasks take money, and there are clearly so many priorities and a finite amount of a budget. Where do you feel like space travel, space exploration, getting to Mars, where does that fit, or where should that fit in America's priorities?
You know, the country and our leaders have to make that decision, and it's a tough one, because there are many compelling needs. And there are many demands on our government and the kind of support that it gives to all range of things. The space program gives us a lot back for the money we spend. First, we spend no money in space. It's all spent here. And a lot of the technologies that we've developed for the space program have found their way into our lives. Some of that by intentional research that we're doing. I was a guinea pig for bone loss medication and exercise protocols, and that's very applicable here. There's a lot of that kind of work that goes on. At the same time, that things like the automatic external defibrillator, it's all over the place now. That was originally developed for us because we knew that for space station, with long exposure to low gravity or no gravity, or the zero-G environment does not put the same kind of daily exercise on your cardiovascular system, on your heart and stuff. And so the medical community believed we would have more incidents of cardiac problems, and we needed some kind of defibrillator that didn't take an EMT, a highly trained person, to use, for one, and two, lower power so that you could use it inside a spacecraft that has pyrotechnic devices in it. And so that AED was developed for us while we're using the Soyuz in a lifeboat mode to bring somebody that was critically ill home. And those things are saving lives every week across the country. Who could have thought of that? Nobody could have thought of that, but that's a spin-off from that technology. NASA's no longer driving computer technology. In the Apollo days, the race for the moon, definitely, that drove transistors and all kinds of that kind of technology, and today consumers drive that. But there's a lot of other things that are coming out of it.
Do you want to go back?
Oh, I'm ready. Yes, I want to go back.
Are you going to go back?
I'm not assigned at this moment. I'm still an active astronaut, and my dream is still alive. You bet. I'd love to go back.
Persistence. You're knocking on doors still?
You bet I am.
Would you go to Mars?
Absolutely.
Without hesitation?
Absolutely.
You got a family?
We've got some work to do.
I was going to say, you got a family back here on Earth.
Sure.
You'd be the first one, or one of the first, heading in that direction.
When I grew up watching the moon missions, I described what it was when I first said, yes, I want to do that too. I started my Mars notebook not long after, because I said, okay, you know, I'm 13 years old. We're landing on the moon now. By the time I'm ready, we'll be going to Mars. I better start learning about Mars. So I really thought, I dreamed that we would be there by now, and I hope to be there by now.
Have you shown the powers that be that book?
And
that might be influential at this point.
No, that was a kid's scribbles in a spiral notebook. But I just vividly remember that, because I thought that's going to be the next step. And I doubt that I will put the first human footprints on Mars, but I look forward to helping those that do. And when they do, I really hope there's an American flag on their shoulder.
Before we let you go really quickly, what is your message to young people in the Brazos Valley? You've spoken to them many times, based on your journey from McAllen to Aggie Land and now to where you are.
There's no dream that's too crazy to reach for. If you can dream it, you can achieve it, and you're going to become a better person for the trying, so you just got to go for it.
Work yourself toward it, and be careful not to take roads that you do not want to be on, even if it never reaches your final, dream destination. And then you're going to be better at what you do, and you're going to enjoy life and enjoy the road.
We appreciate you sharing some of your dream with us.
Thanks so much, Steve. It's great to talk to you in person.
On Earth.
You bet.
This has been Explained. Subscribe for free and download previous episodes from iTunes. You'll also find more of Explained at kbtx.com. This has been a presentation of KBTX Media, the Brazos Valley's news leader.